Ahoy ahoy to all you smooth sailors out there, and welcome aboard the DeckTales Podcast. I'm your host and captain, Sammy Catlin, and this is the show where we set sail into the captivating world of ship life. Most of the time, delving into the best and worst experiences of the incredible crew members who called the open sea their workplace, but I'm open to the odd exception as well. Whether we're navigating stunning destinations to weathering unexpected storms, our guests all have stories to tell that will make you laugh, gasp, and maybe even shed an unexpected tear. So if you're a seasoned cruiser eagerly awaiting your next embarkation, or just curious as to what goes on at sea, DeckTales is your boarding pass to a world of nautical narratives. My guest today is Miss Jini Scoville, a former ship, show team and band vocalist with around 10 years experience. We worked together briefly on a contract out of Long Beach back in 2010, so it was great to reconnect with a former colleague and hear all about her experiences, some of which detailed the lecherous types of male guests she encountered on board. She still sings to this day, but now she does it on land in musical theatre or as part of a duo with her husband Sergio, who makes a brief appearance within this episode. So let's anchor up and dive right in. Jini!
How's it going?
Amazing! Hey, how are you?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
I'm very well, thank you. Looking great. You haven't aged a day and it's been over 10 years. Come on now.
I don't know about that. I'll take it, but...
Jini, you got married, didn't you?
Yes, I just got married about a year ago.
So what's the deal with the surname? You're not changing it?
No. Well, he's Cuban, and they don't necessarily change their last names. Women don't necessarily. Also, it's a lot of bureaucracy. Also, all of the singing and stuff I do, like my website and everything, has been with my last name, and I'm very Googleable. Like, I have a very unique last name.
Yeah.
So that was part of it. I don't want to change everything, because then my last name would be Santos, and still might not be a lot of Jini Santoses out there, but
Well,
yeah.
Jini on its own is quite unique. Is it J with a J? It's not what Jini.
No.
It's Jini.
No.
There's no like apostrophe or accent over the I. But Scoville was like one of those answers to the question: what is the unit of measurement used to measure the heat of chilies or something? So yeah.
Yes.
So when you see Jini Scoville on like a poster for like a show, you're like, oh, I bet that's a bit spicy.
I haven't used that. I should, though.
You're kidding. Come on.
No. I saw someone sent me a while ago, because I don't know anything about Pokemon. Not really. Anyway, somebody recently sent me a thing that there's like a Pokemon called a Scoville.
Oh, right.
Scoville, and they're like, it's like a little monster that's made of peppers. Like, it has like, it's like, what is the mythical like three multi-headed
Hydra?
What was it called? Hydra. Yeah. It's like a Hydra with chili peppers as heads.
You should get a little mock-up made with like your head on all the different like heads.
Oh, that's brilliant. I really should.
Jini Scovillians.
I should.
And co. Or if you have kids one day, maybe add the kids like on the other heads. I don't know. Just thinking out loud.
Oh, that could be a thing.
We're only a couple minutes in, and we basically have completely gone off the topic of how we know each other. And it's almost as if no time has passed at all, Jini. It's like, only yesterday that we were working together.
I know. Right. Wait, well, how long? When
Here we go.
Are you still doing ships? When did you stop doing ships? How long ago did you depart?
2010. So a long time ago.
Long time ago. So not long after we met, actually. So I mostly have done work as a cast production singer, but we actually met when I was doing a fill-in as a party band singer. Like, so because
that's right.
The cast contracts, sometimes they're like planned very far out. So you might take a contract and you're not going out on it for 3 or 4 months. So, and that was the case for me. So I just wanted to keep singing, and you had to make money in between contracts.
So you were with a jazz band, lounge band.
Yeah. The party band that was on Carnival, and I think I was only there for like a month or two. I wasn't there for that long, but in ship time, like the way ship time is a whole thing, which I'm sure you've talked about with people. Ship time is a thing. Time like dilates, and it feels like these periods are, like it's really hard to measure. Like it's hard to think back and kind of have a logical progression of it. You know what I mean? Like you can feel like you became best friends with somebody in a week. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? When you're in a romantic relationship, if you're involved with that person for a week, it feels like months.
It's a very, very common thing. Everyone pretty much has the same experience of it. And that in their own mind justifies them the ability to go and sleep around, because it's like, oh, we were together for ages, weren't we? Oh, no? Only 2 weeks? Oh, right. Okay. My bad.
They're like, oh, that's right. But that's the thing, is you get like this tunnel vision. And I think that like applies to everything. Oh, your mug's so cute.
Thanks.
I think that applies to a lot of things, like whether it's like work drama, like if you're having an issue with a superior or something with a passenger or whatever, it feels so huge and so all encompassing because that's your only point of reference. Your world gets very small in that way. Ironically, as you're like sailing around seeing the world, your like, I guess, psychological, emotional world can be very small, and you can kind of focus in on whatever the drama is of the day, and it can feel very real. You know what I mean? And hierarchical structures on the ship can feel very real, but they're arbitrary to a lot of extent. You know what I mean? So,
oh, absolutely. Ship life is often referred to as like living inside of a bubble.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what's going on outside. But I like the way you put it better. It was like, you had multi-syllabic words in there. That was really good.
I try. Yeah. It's better than my husband and I actually
met usually on the ships.
Talk about. Yeah. We met on ships. We were working on a Regent ship.
Okay.
In 2017, and we always talk about. Do you watch Love Island?
I hate that kind of thing, but of course.
Hate it. Okay, well, ships are very much that way, though.
I can see the parallel, but yeah, it's just trash.
People have like, oh, come on.
Yeah, well, it's an English show, right?
It was originally, but now they have like an Australian one. They have a US one that I dare say is like so much smuttier.
Okay.
It is.
So do you watch them all to compare, or do you just watch the original? What's the original? I don't know.
Well, actually, when I was on a ship, my cast, okay, so I'm veering off on different subjects, but
that's all right.
A lot of times you don't have access to much to watch, right? And you have time to kill in your cabin. So
no, but you can cherry pick what you take from other people.
Yeah. So at least the way it was back in the day for me, was that we would just like pass around hard drives, right? Mm-hmm. Terabyte hard drives. And so some cast hooked me into Love Island, and they put the whole season on there. So you're like, oh, I guess this is what I'm watching now.
Yeah. That's like, what's that thing when you, Stockholm syndrome, like you're sympathetic to your capturers.
Yes.
You kind of began to feel sorry for these people that you had no escape from.
Yeah.
On Love Island, on a ship that you couldn't get off.
Yes, exactly. But the reason I bring Love Island up is that it really is like, so they are in reality TV really in general. Like, I feel like I can empathize with those people sometimes because it's the same like bubble effect, right? So just how we were talking about how things take on like a lot more meaning, or things seem like they've been a lot longer. Yeah. Like Love Island, somebody will be crying over somebody they've known for a week. And it's hard to, like, when you're in real life, it's you look at this person, you're like, you go to therapy. Like, what's wrong with you? You know? But when you've been on something like a ship, you're like, oh, I can see how things just become so much more meaningful very quickly to you, like in a shorter span of time. So, yeah.
So you understand the psychological responses people have a bit better.
Yes. Yeah. So my husband and I always joke about, like, I was like one of the new people on the island because he was doing his thing. I think he was actually seeing somebody a little bit when we first met, but that's how it is. Sign on day, everybody's like who are the new sign-ons? What's up with them? And like, you're the temporary new focus of attention, especially if you're a woman. Because, you know, the ratio really, that's the way it is. You know,
That's pretty even split, I thought.
You think? I don't know.
I can't say I noticed it to be. Well, obviously, in terms of like, you're right, in terms of like officers and all of those people, generally all male, right? But in the hospitality, or engineering, again, mostly male. Laundry, mostly male. Obviously, our department, pretty good mix, I feel like.
True.
But
maybe it's like, yeah, I feel like, I don't know, maybe Americans are like heat-seeking missiles to each other because there's not always a lot of us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that could be part of it.
We didn't even establish. So where were we cruising to? Do you remember? If you were on that band contract.
Yeah, we were doing like the party cruises. Well, all of Carnival cruises are party cruises. Hey, that's not disparaging. That's an advertisement.
The booze cruise.
Yeah, it was. I believe it was the one that went out of Long Beach, LA to did Ensenada, to Catalina.
That's it.
Yeah. Honestly, that ship is the wildest. That ship was the wildest ship that I was on, in the sense that, I mean, I feel like, as far as I remember, correct me if I have this wrong, but like crew bar itself, which I really liked about Carnival, on some ships, other lines I had been on, there was like a petty officer's bar, and then like they separated people kind of by station, and it was really weird. Carnival, I remember we just had a big old bar, and it was just everybody, which was so much more fun. But yeah, I remember people would stay there till like 2 and in the morning. And then the people who had upstairs privileges would go up to the lounge where I would sing earlier in the evening till like 4.
Yeah.
What are you guys doing? And then you have to get up and work. I that was too much for me at the time. And I was a lot younger than I am now.
We had the piano bar, the karaoke piano bar, I believe. And I used to go up there and sing a couple times.
Yeah. You used to dance a lot.
Thank you, Jini.
You were a dancing fool.
Those days are behind me. I walk with a stoop now.
No, you don't.
And I'm a miserable old miser. That's why I'm doing this, because I'm just looking back and growling at the time, the misspent time of my youth.
No, you don't see it that way. I don't think so.
Of course not. How many years have you been in the industry? Are you finished with it now?
So I started in 2009 and I ended 2019. So about 10 years.
Oh, okay.
About 10 years.
Yeah, that's a long old stint. And that was because of what?
That was because of a lot of things. That was because of just wanting to have roots. Like, I kind of felt like I was behind in the whole adulting thing.
And you sensed COVID was coming.
Yeah, I sensed it. No, honestly, well, here's the other thing. Like, so I essentially, a lot of it had to do with my now husband. Because when we first, I mean, a lot of things, right? This is multifactored. So when I started being the oldest person in the cast, like by far, I knew I'd been doing it for a while. And so like, I think there was a gradual over a couple years, just the ship shenanigans were not as fun to me. Just, you know what I mean? Like whether it's just drama or noisy neighbors or being pulled into bizarre duties and charter cruises and stuff, which we can get to. Like I just I think my patience was wearing a little thin. And when you're not having fun anymore, why do it? You know what I mean?
That's the motto for gambling. When the fun stops, stop. Yeah,
exactly. So there was that. And then I met this guy who now I'm married to, and we were able to work together. Like we were able to get our next ship contract together after we met. And we were like possibly looking at lining up more things, but it just gets incredibly difficult because when you are in the cast, you're being cast by either it's in-house or it's like a third party, like an agency. And then he was going through something different as somebody in the band. Like he worked through different agencies. So trying to line up being on the same ship is really hard. It's not always going to work, you know? And so we did the long distance thing for a little bit. Like one of us was on a ship when the other one wasn't. And he's from Miami. I'm from LA. They're very far apart.
What does he play?
A guitar.
Couldn't you just do like a duo thing?
We tried. We actually, when we were on the 2 ships we were on together, we were trying to get some like a reel basically built. So we offered to do that ad hoc, you know, to play in like the upstairs lounge and whatever, tea times. And then they just started putting us on the schedule. So then we were just really busy with something we were not getting paid for, which was fine. Your
intention was just to get some footage for the reel.
Yeah, so we got some, but once we finally started getting offers, like we went through agencies and whatever, it honestly doesn't pay that great. Like, I hate to say it, but casts, I can disclose this, casts make more money than a lot of the other positions are, you know, the wages are higher. And so it was especially hard for me to be like, okay, so I'm going to make half as much money. Like, how are we going to do this? You know?
But just to say, so was that of the 10 years, obviously you worked for a number of different companies. So that's something that you felt was the standard across the industry.
I felt so. I mean, you know, as somebody who, like, I always got to know the band very well. My husband is the only person I dated from a band, but yeah. And so we would talk about these things, and the fact that they had more grueling schedules than we did. It was kind of a parallel because we were in the same department, right? Yeah. But they had more grueling schedules than we did. There were days where we didn't have shows. And if it was the kind of ship where we didn't have a lot of duties, we weren't doing a lot. That wasn't the case for every ship I was on. Some ships I was on, and we can get to that, I had lots of duties, like too many. But a lot of times when I would speak with the band, and my experience when I would do fill-ins as a party band singer, the money just wasn't as good. It's not equitable. It's really not for how hard they work people. I don't know if...
Well, you can say what you were earning comparatively.
I'll use like percentages. Like I feel like the band was always making like 60 or 70% as much as I was making. That really depends because there's other factors. Like I worked on Oceania and I opted to be the social hostess as well because they take those positions from the cast. They're very small ships and small staff. So you double up. So the assistant cruise director comes from the cast. It's a whole thing. So anyway, in that case, I opted to take on social hostess duties, and that upped my salary. Not another full job's worth of salary, but like an extra $150 a week or something, you know?
So you were doing my job?
Maybe. I mean, did you do needlepoint and bingo and trivia?
Are you kidding? I didn't call it needlepoint. It was called scrapbooking.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
It wasn't really needlepoint, but yeah, people used to come in. We used to sell the big books. In the gift shop, and people who were just coming on for a 3-day booze cruise be like, oh yeah, I need to create a book of memories for these.
I need to scrapbook this weekend.
for this weekend. So I'll buy a whole book, and then they'll come with their little scrapbook, and you know, I've got some, you know, felt tip pens and some glitter and glue and random bits and pieces. But I remember we used to have people that would come on board quite regularly, and they would love to come to the scrapbooking session, and they had been on loads of different cruises. So for them, it was a chance to kind of be like, all right, it's work time for me now. You know, I've got time to catch up. And some of them would come on, and they would have like a little suitcase on wheels that they'd bring with them, and it was full of craft stuff. And they'd get it all out on the table, and people would turn up and like, oh, can I borrow your crimping scissors? And they were just like, okay. You know, really kind of like, so I'm the cool kid at this table kind of thing.
Oh my God. No. So ours, we didn't have scrapbooking. We had, needlepoint. They were these little kits. Oh my gosh. I almost forgot about these kits. I forgot what they were called. There was like a brand name.
Cross stitch.
Yeah, they were, I feel like there's a distinction between cross stitch and needlepoint. I don't know. You're gonna have to fact check me on that. But they were these little kits, but we would get like big bins of them, you know, the cast we'd have them backstage. And they'd have all different patterns. And these ladies, when we would bust them out, would lose their minds. Like I'd be in a crow's nest on a sea day. And so I learned not to bring too many of like the favorite kind each session because they would just all get snatched. There were super favored designs that everyone wanted and they fought over and they would hoard. I would be like, you can have one per cruise. And they'd be like, I'm talking to someone and they're going behind my back, like snatching more from the bins. So
that's what it comes to. That's what it comes to in your retirement. You know, you're mobbing the social host for the more, you know, creative stitching patterns.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we have to look forward to.
Yeah, exactly. That's I hope I'm that ballsy at that age. But yeah, so we'd be sitting there having scones and coffee. This would be like too early on a sea day. I don't remember what time, but too early. It was usually the first thing I had to do. And somebody used to call it stichin bitch. That wasn't the official name. But because it was a lot of ladies just, you know, talking shit about other ladies, about, I don't know, saying really ignorant things about whatever country we were in sometimes. Some of them were lovely, but...
Oh, that bitch can't stitch.
Yeah. So some of them were not well informed. But yeah, so I did that and bingo and trivia and Mensa quizzes. I was busy on that ship. It was Oceania. So I had those. And then I would host like, you know, singles get-togethers in the dining room. I'd have to accompany the captain for the VIP guests dinner. So there'd be like a dinner per cruise. I'm sure you'd have done something like this.
Yeah.
Where I'd have to go in the computer and look at their faces and memorize their names of the people who are going to have dinner with the captain. And then I'd have to show up to the dining room because he was inevitably late because he's captaining, you know, and say, you know, hello, Mr. and Mrs. Mason. I heard you're from Georgia. So nice to have you here. Da, 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 you know, and order wine and like get them all seated. And a lot of times it was crazy because it'd be like a table with 8 guests and the captain would show up late and not talk very much.
so it was up to you
the whole time. Oh, I definitely got, at one point, I remember a guest was asking the captain to, you know, chime in more. And he's like, no, women speak. Like he basically was like, let her talk. Women are the chatters. So I was like, okay. So yeah, I did that stuff all day long.
Was that all Americans? Or was it kind of a mixed international crowd?
It was mixed. Oceania was mixed. A lot of Americans, but some Europeans as well.
I hosted it on, what was it, Silver Sea, and it was called Singles Mingles. And I held, you know, the reception for the guests to meet up, have a drink, have a little socialise, and then we'll go down to dinner. And it was such an international crowd, and they were all very wealthy because it was a very prestigious company. Mm-hmm. And I remember one evening, I'm just like, mate, I'm not even 21.
That's really funny.
And I had this woman who spoke barely any English, and she just like, you know, smiling at everybody, Japanese lady. And whenever she was asked any questions, she would just say, I like dance. I like dance.
I like dance.
I like dance. So yeah.
Hey, you know what? She was trying to be nice. It's better than if you get somebody who's like super negative.
Of course.
I had one dinner where there was this passenger that was just a pain in the ass the entire cruise. He was just, you'd see him around. He was drunk. He was negative. He was not a fun person to be around. And when I saw that he was on this like VIP dinner, I was like, oh God, this guy. And so of course, he shows up and is immediately like, you know, as I'm walking them to the dining room, he's already like stumbling around. I'm like, this is going to be awesome. And we get to the table, and of course he sat next to me. And I'm just like, no. But, you know, you got to keep soldiering on. So I ended up calling him wine glass guy because he critiqued me on the way I held my wine glass the entire night. Like in the middle of everyone around the table having conversation. I think I had white wine and I was like touching part of the actual glass rather than the stem. I think I was just like,
oh, you were cradling it?
Yeah, a little bit. I was having a conversation and like not being super careful with it because I didn't know that I was being interviewed for, you know what I mean? Like, I think I was doing it a little bit. And he would lean over and be like, why are you doing that? Why would you hold your glass that way? And so I kind of started to troll him and just be like, yeah, I'm gonna hold it however I want to. You know what I mean? I'm like, I said it in a cuter, more don't get yourself fired way.
Yeah.
Like, I like holding it like this, And then he proceeded the entire dinner to like lean over and tell me, you'd never be accepted in my social circles with your mannerisms.
Were there other mannerisms that you're breaking at the table in terms?
No, he just hated that. He hated that. I think he just was a little bit misogynist. I don't know. Yeah. You find that a lot. It
really comes out of people at sea.
Oh, it does. Crew and passengers, especially the older ones, especially a lot of the older, very well-to-do ones.
Yeah. And if anyone's confused as to why this man was saying about the wine glass not being cradled, it's because obviously white wine is chilled. So you hold it by the stem and you don't have it in your hand cradled because that's a quick way to warm it up.
Yes.
Obviously, you don't do that. But I find out, Jini, that wine isn't in the glass for longer than a couple of minutes anyway.
Well, it just was one of these things that I think I did it a little bit subconsciously, and then I just didn't want to stop doing it because it was making him mad. And not that I wanted him to troll me, but I don't know. I mean, again, you probably understand this. You spend so much of your time like on stage, every little thing about you being like analyzed and needing to be a certain way. And there's so much, especially as a girl, like not to go on like a feminist tip, but that I put up with constantly from passengers that I just like this one thing. I was just like, no, buddy, you're not getting this from me.
You're not having this over me tonight. I'm going to have my fun. No. Yeah. Oh,
hey there.
Hello.
Sergio, nice to meet you.
Hola. It's
hola.
The Cuban.
Yes, the fake. I'm a fake Cuban. I'm from Miami.
Well, he was asking why I didn't change my last name, and I gave that as one of the reasons.
I mean,
and you guys don't.
I think most Cuban Americans have just adopted the whole changing the last name thing, but we're keeping it. We're keeping it broader, international.
She said you're not spicy enough.
No. I don't dance, so I lost my card there.
That's all good. So how long were you in the industry for?
On and off 10 years. Doesn't add up to much because there was a lot of off to the on and off, but 10 years or so.
And I'm guessing you got a very different set of experiences compared to Jini.
Probably.
The one thing about Jini is that she was in a party band type of contract once.
She knows. That's how I know Sam.
Right. So that's she got to experience something a little bit closer to what I experienced as well during that time because the show band life was my life. Playing
the same 20 songs over and over again.
Yeah.
A lot of Sweet Caroline. You know the deal.
Yeah. Ironically, that song is about, isn't it one of the president's daughters or something?
Is it?
We were wondering what the hell that song was about the other day.
Oh, like Caroline Kennedy?
Yeah, it's not, it's about his wife, who wrote the song, Neil Diamond?
Yeah.
Yeah,
the one and only.
Yeah, I can't, don't quote me on this, but the rhyme didn't work as well with his wife, so he changed it to Caroline, which was the daughter of the president. And at the time of recording or whatever, she was like 14 or something.
Oh, that's creepy.
Oh yeah, that is
takes on a whole new meaning when you know that.
It does.
But yeah, right. Well, Jini, thanks for introducing me to the other half. We're going to go through some questions. Chime in if you've got something.
What I was telling Jini about earlier is if you've ever heard of the cesspit that is Dark Show Band Facebook group.
Dark Show Band? No.
So I think there was a very distasteful set of videos that came out on YouTube many years ago called Dark Show Band. I think it was originally Australian. And there were these little flash animations that was kind of like trying to be like a little bit like the old internet, kind of like in the style of like Homestar Runner.
What was the brand of the company? It wasn't Carnival. It was
something else. Yes,
it was Circus Cruise Lines or something.
It's something like that, and it was very not PC humor.
I've seen that. I've seen that clip.
But there were elements of realism in that little series, and that the name was Dark Show Band, and so there was a Facebook group that took off with that name called Dark Show Band Musicians.
Right.
And it's mostly a cesspool of misogyny, but you can wade through it and find a lot of talk about the dark show band life.
Ship life in general.
Well, let's hear a couple of these anecdotes, Serge. Come on.
Oh God,
Anecdotes. Legal anecdotes.
No, I'm not interested in any of that. As long as we keep company names out of it, we're okay.
There's one that's this one's kind of cute, I guess. We had a passenger sneak into Crew Bar once. He was just in line for a drink at Crew Bar with his cone shirt and everything, just like a Hawaiian type shirt. I mean, he was just
so this isn't Dark Show Band. This is just Ship Life.
Yeah, this is just Ship Life. Dark Show Band stuff is like...
too dark.
I don't know. Band members getting into fights, stupid crap like that. You know what I mean? Just like some people that join and they're just like ego tripping. Political in post the era of the coronavirus. I've heard about stories about Ukrainian and Russian musicians not getting along, Ukrainian and Russian crew members not getting along.
Okay.
That kind of stuff.
Well, the thing is, and we can get into this, but I've had so many inappropriate things happen with passengers that I just never reported because there was no point. And I've also taken it to the cruise director and gotten a very boys will be boys line, or that's part of the job, or welcome to show business. In a normal workplace, it wouldn't be that way. But you know what I mean? It's such a particular dynamic where they're beholden to these passengers in a really troubling kind of way sometimes. Yeah. And as a woman, I feel like there are so many things that I never even talked about because it was what is the point? If I got up in arms at everything that happened, I would be either fired or just go crazy all the time. You know what I mean?
Was it ever come to us when something actually traumatic has happened, Jini? All right, stop crying, wolf.
Yeah, I mean, it was more like they would think something was cute. I had one incident where I called this guy the whole cruise, about this on the ship we were on together. I called this passenger the kissing man because he would just come and kiss me all the time.
On the lips or on the cheek?
He would try. He would grab my face. And this was we had to, there was a captain's cocktail thing that would happen in the theater. And when you're the cast, a lot of times you're doing PR, right? So you're just there to be a door greeter. So you're in your evening gown and stuff. And, people touching your bare skin and just, the skeevy things these old guys will do. But this guy, every time I was at an event like this, through the entire cruise, and it was a long cruise, would just come over and pull me around the waist and try to kiss me on the mouth. And he kissed me all over my face. He kissed me everywhere he possibly could without me punching him.
Yeah. It was a retiree age, right?
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of wannabe madmen mentality type of thing happening with that generation.
He was too old to be behaving that way. And I think he even had a wife on board, as they often do.
Yeah.
And it was just the kind of thing where I couldn't get anyone to take it seriously. They thought it was funny or cute. And I'm but I don't want to show up to these if this man is going to accost me every time,
100%. And thank you for using Sergio as your where on the doll did he touch you puppet.
Stand-in.
I wouldn't have known what you were talking about had you not had him there.
No, I try to give this guy the cheek every time, which is already a violation. We have to stop and think about we're at work. Yeah. This person shouldn't really be holding me and trying to kiss me at all.
And we're not in the tipping pool, so this is not worth it.
No.
It's the only department where we can't make tips, and you have to go the extra mile. Pay me first, and then maybe we'll talk about it. Did you ever get any offers, money-wise?
I had a man shout a marriage proposal at me once on Regent. Yeah. I would see this old man around the ship a lot, and I walked by him one time, and he was with a bunch of his buddies, and it was like, ma'am, or miss, whatever the heck he called me, probably something not even that nice. are you married? And I was like, no. And he's like, would you like to be? Come here. And I'm like, no.
Oh,
And again, those things are so minor compared to like
the terrible
the amount of passengers
stuff
that will try. Yeah, but even like
but with passengers, regarding passengers,
the amount of times they'll try to sit you down and get you drunk in the lounges and whatever. Like that's still all very minor, but it's like that's what I'm saying is I feel like only the most extreme stuff ever even gets talked about because and I've had my share of trouble with crew members as well. But like I think the passengers was always the most frustrating thing to me because there's really no recourse. There's nothing you can do.
And they should know better, but because they're on their holiday, all that goes out the window, and they're just looking for a chance to have a good time and see how far they can push it. Well,
I think with everybody, with all the crew, right? So everybody from guys working in the dining room to band to cabin stewards, I think when passengers go on this type of holiday and they spend this type of money, like when we were on Regent, it was this cruises were extremely expensive. And so I feel like they get a little bit of ownership and entitlement. Like they kind of feel like you're all here, like whether it's your position or mine, you are here to do what I want you to do. You know what I mean? Like, because I've paid, I've invested in this. Y'all are a captive audience. You're with me on this. You know what I mean? Like,
you mentioned earlier about needlepoint. Was there ever like some sort of creepy guys that would turn up to that and be like, "This is the foreplay"?
I kind of wish. No, that would have broken it up. No, men.
It goes needlepoint and then sex.
No. No, men almost never turned up to needlepoint, although they would hover around because it was like the first thing happening in the upstairs lounge, like the crow's nest type lounge on a sea day. And so, you got your men getting their coffee and their scones who want to come try to talk to you about something, usually irrelevant. Sometimes about what you're eating. That's another fun thing passengers like to do, especially with female cast members. They like to tell us who was fat, if you're fat, why are you eating what's on your plate?
A lot of that.
No, seriously. Like,
yeah, I can believe it. Because obviously, I don't know if it still applies now, but like, regular weigh-ins for the show team.
Oh, yeah.
To have to fit your costumes.
Yeah, we had weigh-ins at least up until 2018, 2019, my last contract. We were doing weigh-ins, but I did also work for a line. It was for Stiletto Entertainment, which is now defunct. So whatever.
Whatever.
We actually had to take photos. So we had to get in like our skivvies, like the least clothing you were comfortable wearing is basically how it was said to us. And we had to take photos and send them to the home office. So that was like, I think, a monthly thing. So the weigh-ins were less invasive than that. I'll tell you what, like we tried to make a joke out of it. I remember for some of mine, I'd find like a big dumb hat and put it on because you feel so like vulnerable and weirdly embarrassed that you have to like send a picture of you in your underwear back to God knows who is going to see it.
Yeah, definitely. That is weird. Okay. Yeah. Well, I don't know if that's still a common practice, but we're out of it now, so who knows?
I don't see why it wouldn't be like it's interesting that I have him here right now because on Regent, Sergio and I were actually out together when a couple approached us. This guy who called everyone fat. That guy.
Oh, yeah.
We were just having a night out, like going to one of the cocktail lounges or whatever after one of his sets. And this guy came up to tell me in explicit detail that he thought all the female cast dancers were too big. None of them were, for the record. They looked great. This was like one of those showgirl, like Parisian nightclub, shows that was risque. And sometimes passengers would walk out of it. These girls looked great. And yeah, he came to tell us who he thought was too fat and what they should do about it. He's like,
like we cared about his bullet points.
Yeah, he's like 4 of them weigh what 6 should weigh. And I'm sitting here wondering if he knows that I was also on stage or if he's counting me because he knows I'm the singer. That's why he's telling me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But like you're the boss because you've got the mic. You're going to be the one to sort of verbalize.
Yeah, like get those fatties in line. I don't know. And then he he proceeded to tell us, he's like, oh, I was on, we were on Crystal Cruises or whatever he's saying to his wife, who I don't know why his wife's just sitting here like, like tolerating this conversation.
Yeah.
He proceeded to tell us that, oh, I was on this cruise and the captain handpicked the dancers. And I'm like, that doesn't happen.
No.
I don't know who told you that, but that's not
a lot of ideas.
a thing.
In what world does the captain pick those people?
He's handpicking the dancers.
Maybe he handpicks the dancers from the already existing show team to go to his cabin afterwards.
Yes, maybe that's what he meant. But he's like, no, he handpicks them, make sure they're very slim. I was like, oh my God. So we had to stand around. This was like a half-hour conversation with this guy and his poor wife, just standing there obediently.
There's a lot of characters. Speaking of old creepy dudes, there was one guy who came up to the band to be like, ooh, where's so-and-so, referring to one of the dancers.
Yeah.
And we're like, we don't know. He's like, oh, because I like so-and-so. This guy's like 80. This guy's like 80, okay?
I'll bet you
and
do.
He's like, and we're like, we don't care, but it's just weird that he wants to walk up and tell us that. And like, we're not going to tell you where she is. What do you want us to tell you? She's on deck 9.
Yeah.
Like,
aft, starboard side.
Yeah, exactly.
Or give you her cabin number.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
No,
of course. This is turning into the misogynistic special.
Well, that's a lot of ships.
Well,
that is a
lot of ships.
That's not everything, right? There's so many good things, and we can talk about the good things. But a lot of my experience, I think, because I was a younger lady on stage, that did color a lot of my experience. Like whether it was with the crew or passengers, it just was kind of a constant, kind of a constant thing.
And you used your real name on board throughout. Yeah. I mean, my ex-girlfriend Rachel was to the point back in 2010, I think, so something around then. She changed her name because she would get loads of Facebook stalkers.
Oh wow!
Did that happen to you as well?
Sometimes I got requests from people, but never that I interacted with. No.
No sort of dicey pics come your way?
Oh, I had a really weird experience where I was in Lisbon and I went out on a shore excursion. So I'm not sure if you did this, but we were lucky enough sometimes as crew members to be able to sign up. And if there's room, you could like escort the tour, right? And basically go on the tour for free. Very nice privilege. I went on this gorgeous cruise, like not cruise, but like little boat ride in Lisbon with like wine and little hors d'oeuvres, like a sunset thing. I was loving life, right? And I didn't realize that there was a man that was taking pictures of me the entire time. And then when he left the cruise, he sent me a letter and it had a bunch of like just printed out in the computer lab. So not on photo paper, but like just printing, you know what I mean? Yeah. He sent me a letter with like pages of printed candid pictures of me.
Not weird at all.
No.
It was a lot. So that was really
that's a stalker. You had a stalker.
That was strange. And I was like, well, I'm glad he left.
A lot.
Yeah, I'm glad he left. That was bad. Yeah, so there were weird things like that. I think one of the grossest things that ever happened to me was, it was just gross because of the comment. There was a guy when I was doing a fill-in as a party band singer, and so you're wearing like, I don't know, tropical clothes, and I guess I have white pants on for deck party stuff, right? And this man came up to me and he was just like, I just got to tell you something about every time I see you walk across the deck in your cream pants. And the fact that he used the word cream, I don't know why.
So much worse.
It just made it so much worse.
No, those creamy pants are just...
yeah, they're... It's a lot.
It brings up bile. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's fun non-misogyny related stuff. Like I met a guy that got fired once. He was talking to me about all sorts of weird, like this is a crew member, and he was talking to me about all sorts of weird, like great replacement theory stuff, like years ago before it like was in vogue, right?
So just casual racism?
So this guy was just like telling me all about this great replacement theory stuff, which was odd. Not that gay dudes can't be into that, but it's just not the demographic you feel like is going to Venn diagram with
outright racism.
This. But he was just saying that he came from a really rich family and didn't want to live that life. So he was just like on ships now, being bohemian, I guess, and that he didn't care. Telling me you can get fired from any line, right? And they don't it doesn't communicate with another line. You could just get hired by another line. Yeah, he told me that, and I was like, okay. There's so many crazy people on board, be it passengers or crew members, that you never know who's telling you some real stuff or not, And I was like, all right. But then a few days later, homie's fired. And then the gossip was like, hey, why dude get fired? Oh, dude was snorting cocaine off of the laundry, off the laundry table, the folding table in the laundry room. And
do they have cameras?
Yes, and there was a house service girl, like a room service girl, like cleaning or doing housekeeper. Sorry, like doing her laundry in there, and like he just did it right in front of her. As the story goes, and then he got fired. And then he got disembarked on one of them islands, like the Cayman Island or something. And then the next day he was just posting on Facebook like it was all good, like partying, like it's nothing. I'm like, man, maybe this dude just didn't care.
Well, that. If you come from money, then you seldom are worried, aren't you? Yeah, just because you don't have that constant stress of am I going to make rent, this and that.
That's true. So it lent I can't confirm it, but it certainly lent credence to some things about what he was telling me.
Yeah, definitely.
I was like, oh, that's, yeah.
They have cocaine in Grand Cayman too, I've heard. So maybe it was by design, like I get fired at just the right time. Grand Cayman, that's a good one. Yeah, I'll go there afterwards.
Yeah.
I get a chance to see my offshore bank accountant.
Yeah, he probably makes a habit of getting fired at Grand Cayman just for the convenience.
Yeah. I don't know how long I've got left of this call, but I've just discovered that, after each 40-minute session, Serge, Zoom now makes you wait 9 minutes until you can start the next annoyingly call.
I'm getting out of it.
It's not what I was saying, Jini.
It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no, listen, honestly, pleasure. Thank you for coming on.
Good to meet you, Sam.
Good to meet you too, brother. All right, let's get back to misogyny.
Yeah.
No. No. Do you have any standout scariest moments that aren't related to guests being creepy?
I had an interesting one on my last ship, on the Oceania ship. So we were doing drill, some sort of training. There's always some sort of training.
Always.
And we got on our schedule that we had to walk out and board the lifeboats. So it was like getting in a lifeboat that is suspended.
On the
deck. I mean? Like the deck. Yeah. So we had to do that in groups. And long story short, ours caught fire.
Your boat?
So yes, so down, we all got on it. And then there was something happening down below. There was a guy who was crawling into this hatch and down. And, there was smoky, and we very quickly realized, everybody off back onto the deck because something caught fire. They were turning it on. I don't know why they were turning it on. I don't know if they were going to lower it or what. It was quite chaotic. It really felt like they didn't really know what they were doing.
So you're hanging there suspended, and you can smell burning.
Yeah.
Nice.
We were fine. They later said that he's like, they try to minimize, right? So it was a small fire, just an itty bitty one.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So we all got off. And then a few days later, they called us back to do the same training. Mm. And so I, as we're lining up, I say to my friend, I'm like, I don't feel good about this. Is the same shit that happened the other day going to happen? So I was groaning about, please don't put me on a boat suspended. This is going to catch on fire.
The film Final Destination comes to mind.
Yeah, and an officer hears me, grabs me by the shoulder, and pulls me in close to him, and it's like, you do not say such things. And I was like, I do though. And he's like, don't shut your mouth. He threatened me.
Wow.
And it really rattled me. I felt like this guy wanted to punch me deep down. You know what I mean? He was very upset. And I think it just he saw red. And I think it was probably out of embarrassment or insecurity. The fact that we all knew that they kind of, something got effed up last time. And so, yeah.
It's an old, I don't know if it's true for a lot of people, but like a lot of these older, more seasoned, salty sea dogs, they have their kind of beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you say it or jinxing it, you're willing it into existence. So you're...
That could be.
You know, don't risk it.
That could be. I felt that he just wanted me to be quiet because he didn't want me to rile up the other crew members. But, like, I didn't feel like I had to keep my mouth shut about that. That's a safety thing, you know?
Well within your rights to say your piece. But so you got on board? It didn't happen?
No. I think we got on board and it was fine.
Okay.
The reason I bring that up as a scary moment is just there were a lot of things throughout my time on ships. Like I never was part of like a huge incident. I definitely had times in like the North Sea where we hit a bad storm and some dining room windows got smashed in by waves. I mean, you get those, right? You get stuff like that. Small fires, again, but they take care of them and they're fine, you know? But it was just, I think the notion that they weren't telling us things sometimes that things were being minimized when there was an issue. Like I had friends who worked as engineers I remember a friend came by my table in the dining room one night on his way to dealing with a crisis and just leaned over and was like, we should not be sailing right now. Like there were things that I felt like we never really knew about. Things were very minimized, right? Because on a ship, you need to leave port. You need to leave port on time. There's so much money on the line.
I was just about to say that. Yeah, it's a schedule that's so tight, militant schedule.
Yeah. And so it's hard to speak up about safety. When you do, sometimes it's not taken very nicely because that can spread like wildfire. You know what I mean? Like if a crew member were to say something and a passenger were to hear it or whatever, that could cause, panic. So just that notion of not really knowing sometimes, or knowing something's not a great situation, but that you have to deal with it because you don't really have any other choice.
Yeah, that's the truth. You said that the Paradise was your craziest ship. Why was that?
That ship was just party all the time. Party all the time. I feel like, and I had done a couple ships prior to that. I wasn't completely green to ships. I hadn't been on Carnival though. And I hadn't been on like party cruises. I had been on Holland America, Alaska, and trips around Europe. And so this was a whole other, people are just on those booze cruises to like live it up and drink. Yeah. I mean, every set I had with the band, I'd have like somebody in a bachelor party heckling me. You know what I mean? Like it was just kind of constant. I remember one time a security guy offered to walk me back to my cabin after we were doing a set in one of the lounges at night because it was just rowdy. It was a bunch of bachelorette parties, like people just crazy. And he actually, he's like, I'm going to walk you back to your cabin because this is nuts, which I hadn't had on a ship before. I also remember that some of the time people would get disembarked before we would even sail. Like, I remember we would have people get on and they would get these like buckets, like these buckets of beers.
Yeah.
And be get in a fist fight before we even depart.
Yeah.
And be asked to leave.
That's the demographic in Long Beach.
Yeah.
They couldn't even wait to get to Ensenada to get a bucket on land. They would just, we get buckets here.
Now.
Spring break. Yeah. Woohoo. Oh, I missed Sail Away. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's a whole thing. I'm not saying people didn't party on the other lines or other cruises, but the demos were slightly different. Mm-hmm. And so that wasn't usually the entire point of the cruise, the way that it was with like Carnival booze cruises. Like that's what those are for. I know people are like family fun to a point, maybe because they've got something for your kids to do, but really it's for just drinking.
I see. Yeah, exactly. A lot of people would come on wearing those helmets with the beer cans on the side, double straw going straight into the mouth. They'll be wearing a t-shirt that says, "I'm on a boat, bitch."
Yeah. Oh my God, yes. Yeah. Oh my God, yes. Yeah. No, that was
good times.
definitely.
Did you have a most embarrassing moment?
Oh, I had lots of embarrassing moments.
Is that a whole other 40-minute recording?
Well, I mean, to sum up, I had lots of times as a cast member where something would go wrong because you're on a rocky ship and you are in heels and long gowns sometimes. And so I've definitely fallen on my ass more than once or tripped. Definitely had to do a quick change that didn't quite take. So then I was like missing an article of clothing or like your wig falls off. That has happened.
You didn't have any injuries during these slips and trips?
No. Thank goodness. Just to my ego. Just with people being like, wow.
But when you were missing an article of clothing, and you didn't know that obviously you'd gone out on stage with an article of clothing less. But then when you see a lot of men who were falling asleep suddenly open their eyes, then you're like, what am I missing? What's going on?
People would definitely sleep at the shows sometimes.
And that wasn't a reflection on your performance abilities. That's just because they're old.
There were plenty of people who loved the shows, as you know, but also sleepers. Also, people just show up after dinner. They're full. They've had their food and wine, and they're like, it's dark in here. It's comfy, I guess. I mean, and they don't. That's the thing is they don't pay to see the show. So that's the way it's fundamentally different than on land, right? Is because they can walk out or they can fall asleep because there's no investment. Like, they don't care. You know what I mean? Speaking of embarrassing, we had I think on Princess, they made us do a production show on New Year's. And I think we were competing with everything else that was on board. And I think like 2 or 3 people came to the audience, but they still made us do it. Because, ships are like, sometimes they just will keep running the program, whatever it is, because they want to have something in every lounge. They need to have something going on. Yeah. So they never want to appear like a guest is wandering the ship and they're bored. They walk into a room and there's nothing happening there. Something has to be happening in every room, like a fun house, So yeah, I definitely had some cringy times of doing things where nobody was around and we're just like, why are we going through these motions? Why?
Well, but you're just doing it because you've been told this is the slot, this is what you've got to fill. Doesn't matter if there's nobody in the lounge. If anyone wants to come in and sit at the bar and watch the band, then that's their choice.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
It's a shame you're not paid by the performance. Then you'd be a lot more money.
Oh, no, absolutely not. They would never.
Because then you'd never stop playing. You'd be like,
Yeah. Like I said with Serge, when he and I were like, okay, we're going to do a guitar vocal duo thing. And we're like, we just kind of want to try it out, when you guys. And then half the time we were struggling to get out into port because they threw us on the schedule like constantly, because to them it was just like new meat. You know what I mean? Like something else we can put on the schedule. And pretty soon it just became our second job. And it was nice to have the experience, so we didn't fight it that much. But it was also like harder to enjoy our time because suddenly we had this whole other responsibility.
Constantly having to get back for the shows that one person might turn up to.
Exactly. But yeah, they'll work you. They'll work you as much as they can.
Did you, during your 10 years, come into contact with any celebrities?
I am embarrassed to say I feel like there were a couple times I saw celebrities, but I'm embarrassed to say how excited I was about this particular one.
You were fangirling?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I have a couple different experiences. One of them is not the fangirling one. I worked for a Japanese cruise line for a little over a year. I kind of fell into that because I was working for Tokyo Disney for a short bit between ship contracts. And so it was kind of through word of mouth that I got this Japanese cruise ship job. So the cast were all like Westerners, but nobody else was. Nothing on the ship was in English. So very, very unique experience. Tokyo Disney actually is owned by another company. It's the only Disney theme park that isn't owned by Disney. Just fun factoid.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So I was on a Japanese cruise ship and we got sumo wrestlers sometimes, which they're like rock stars in Japan, basically.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to, like, in the cast, approach them and, you know, say hello, and they wouldn't give us the time of the day. They treated us like, who are you? Who are these, please?
No,
that was
like,
fun.
They're like gods.
Oh, wait, I think yeah.
They're like gods. You're absolutely right. They're rock stars in their own right. So that was one where you got kind of hired off, as we say. Who was the one you were most embarrassed about?
I know we saw a few celebrities, but the one that mainly stuck with me was, and I live in LA, so I feel like I see more celebrities there than I ever did on ships.
Yeah.
But no, there's a show. I don't know if you know the show Modern Family. It's an American show. So the dad, Ty Burrell.
Yeah.
He came on, and I've always thought he was very funny. Like, I'm a big fan of Muppets. He did a Muppet movie that I loved him in. Like, he's great. So he came to this show that we did, and he was like there with his family, and he waited like in the, you know, the exit area to say hello to the cast afterwards. And I was just so excited to meet him in real quick because I love the show, and I just think he was also like so kind and handsome. It kind of like, I was a little bit taken aback. You know what I mean? He was just like, he was very smooth. Yes. He was very like asking everybody all our names and speaking about the show and what he liked about it and didn't, and was just like so sweet. So yeah, that definitely, I was like, let's hype her out. I was more excited about that than anyone else in my cast was, but.
Well, that's a lovely little anecdote. It's nice to have some balance to all the misogyny that's been going on.
Oh yeah.
You mentioned earlier, very briefly, that you said, and we'll get onto this later, charter cruises.
Charter cruises.
You had a few different types of ones.
Yeah, I was on a Holland America ship. There was a gay charter cruise, which was so fun. Like, first of all, when you do a charter cruise, I don't know if people will know this or not, but you don't necessarily have to do all your normal duties. Like, it's a little bit of a dick around week or whatever it is, you know? And so this one, there were just parties every night. Debbie Gibson, famous 80s singer, she came on board. There was a drag show with amazing costumes, a Sound of Music sing-along. There was the whole, like, upper sun decks was, like, nude. It was wild. It was wild. It's just things you never see on a normal ship. Totally different demographic, younger, you know? Yeah.
Was there, like, a Rocky Horror Picture Show viewing party as well, or something along those lines?
There must have been. There were so many things going on. I just kind of went to what I could. And we in the party band, I think that was one of the short party band fills I did. I got so lucky because I took a short, like 6-week or 2-month party band fill-in, basically sub job. And like half of it was charter cruises.
That is lucky. And you're not expected to perform.
No, I think we did perform once or twice, but they didn't really care to see us. Like, they were nice, but we weren't the main attraction.
No, because they bring their own entertainment as part of the group, as part of the charter.
Yeah, the production cast did do one of their shows, but they like sort of rewrote it to be a gay love story. Like, because, you know, there's like little stories sometimes in the So that was fun and interesting. That one was cool. We did another one on Regent. I don't know what the nature of this cruise was, but it was people from China and involved business. That's all I can tell you.
Oh, okay.
It was a group from China, and it was something to do with business.
Was there a lot of bowing going on?
Yes. And we didn't have to do any of our shows or anything, but we did have to help with just other kind of like event setting up duties and kind of go between stuff. And one of the things they made us do is they had some sort of award ceremony in the theater where, I don't know, people were being recognized for business, whatever it was. I wish I could tell you achievements in business. And they made the female cast members show up so that we could like escort these men on and off stage. And I was livid. The event that I got called to, there were several of these, was so long and I was just waiting side stage. It was freezing in the theater, and I was like in a little cocktail dress, just like waiting for the next a-hole they wanted me to walk out there. And I finally pitched such a fit. Like I was in such a very verbal bad mood about it side stage that they finally just dismissed me. They just let me go. I'm surprised I didn't get fired, but I was just like, ugh, why are we doing this? What's the point of this? Ugh.
Were you taller than most of the recipients of awards?
Yeah. Weirdly enough, the tech people they brought with them were all Dutch. Don't know why. And so I was bitching to the Dutch guys. And in my experience, Dutch people are pretty direct. So I felt like I could just tell them, like, I think this is stupid. I don't know why I'm here. Have your own event. This is not my job. I'm not getting paid for this.
Well, and I think, add some color to the proceedings, literally.
Yeah, and I think the techie Dutch guys just got so sick of having me side stage. They're like, this one's a pain in the ass. And so I got sent away. I didn't want to sit there and Vanna White for however many hours. Like,
you didn't even know what the awards they were winning were for, right?
No, maybe they're stupid awards.
They could have been really like evil awards, and you were just like, yeah, congratulations, well done, you. You know, I have no idea what you've won, and if it's a really bad thing, I'll never know. And the next award goes to the entrepreneur who crushed the most independent business owners. And then you come on like, well done, you.
Yeah, really I feel like... Well, I just spent a lot of time being like a prop on the ship. Like, I feel like if you're in the entertainment department, you often have to get dressed up and stand somewhere. You know what I mean? Like stand doing doors for the theaters or Captain's Cocktail or whatever. And I just had so much of that. Like on Oceania, they would have like a ceremony and they would give out these pins to passengers that had done a certain number of cruises. So you could be like gold status, platinum status, whatever. And I was literally, as social hostess, I had to attend this and just be like pin girl. So I had to like go get the pins on a tray and just stand on stage as everybody got their pin. And like the thing that the joke of it is, I hate to say this, but you can edit this out if it's too mean, but the thing is they're like applauding these people for spending all their money. Like that's what they're doing. They're like, congratulations to so-and-so. They've done,
this little platinum pin that means you've done 100 cruises cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. Well done, you.
And they're super proud. People stand up, they're like, this is Mr. and Mrs. They've spent, 837 days aboard. And it's like, and I'm like, do you guys not realize that this whole ceremony is just like an advert? They're just trying to they're trying to get everybody frothed up and like, ooh, I need to compete. I need to do as many cruises as the Johnsons.
Well, you never know. There'll be people in the audience of the older generation going, oh, I want that pin so bad. There'll be little girls looking up and being, oh, I wish I could be the girl giving out the pins.
So we all go on ships for our own reasons, right? But I feel like the money or escaping situations at home, I feel like there are certain personality types that get on ships. And I'm definitely one of those creatures. I was out of college, wanted to perform, wanted to not have overhead, needed to dig myself out of student loans, that kind of thing. So in that way, I was suited for ships. But I think in some ways my personality was very not, just because there is so much pomp and circumstance and things done for show, and often you are just kind of there as a prop. And I don't know, I had a very low tolerance, and probably I'm honestly surprised that I didn't get fired, because I had a little too much commentary. But I wasn't as flexible and amenable, I guess.
Your default setting was resting bitch face.
Yeah, I mean, so did you ever do crossing
Equator.
The Equator crossing? Yeah, where you do the whole ceremony.
Yeah.
Oh, I bitched about that so much. I was just like, I don't even think I ever let them do the cover me with disgusting food and stuff. I think I was like, I'll be a pirate or I'm not going to be there.
Yeah, I was the pirate every time. The kiss the fish thing. I held the fish, big salmon or whatever. I did write about this in the second book, actually, and where that gets its origins, and it's like an old naval tradition, and it's like, rites of passage things. You know, they when you step on board, if you've never done the crossing the equator thing before, you're what's known as a polywog.
Polywog, yeah.
Which is another Pokemon. But if you're somebody that's done it more than once or so, then you're a shellback.
That's right. So I remember that. I didn't realize that was a naval tradition, though.
Well, it used to be so bad. It goes back to the old days of wooden ships, and people died in the initiations. So quit bitching, Jenny.
You're telling me I should have just been like, you know what, it's fine. You guys can pour salad and spaghetti on my head.
Kiss the fucking fish.
Oh, it's so gross.
I don't even know you're born, Jini.
That's funny.
Were there any forbidden romances that you can tell us about?
I wish my life was juicier. I didn't really have any, but I can tell you, like, my first contract, I don't know if this is a cast thing or what, but my first contract, I'm pretty sure we're all young 20s. The cast, and I'm pretty sure everybody had a boyfriend or girlfriend when we started the contract, and I'm pretty sure all those relationships back home dissolved in the first 2 or 3 months.
Yeah,
that's very common. It's very common.
Yeah.
No, I mean, there were things that I observed, like everybody does, like some of the officers having wives at home and having, women come on board or whatever. So Sergio and I actually shared a cabin on Oceania, and we had a neighbor she worked in the crew office. They call it different things on different ships. She was like in the purser's office, whatever you want to call it, the crew HR, the crew, whatever.
Yeah.
And she was irritated with us because we made too much noise. 2 people in a cabin, we're talking, or, we're practicing guitar and singing. We were noisy. The walls were very, very thin, exceptionally thin in this hall. And so she would get upset with us, and she tried to report us. And then Serge started randomly, shortly after that, getting drug tested, but constantly, like every other day, it seemed like. And I don't know if you've talked about the drug testing thing at all, or the alcohol. Yeah. So luckily he was never drunk at 7 a.m. So he always passed, but it was like this weird thing that we're like, why is he getting drug tested all the time? All of a sudden.
How long was he getting drug tested for? Like routinely?
This went on for weeks.
Yeah. It was
a lot, and it's random. I, for instance, in all my years on ships, I've been on 12 ships or something. I've never been drug tested. My number never got called. It's supposed to be random. I don't think it is. But either way, so he kept getting drug tested, and we're like, what's going on? Well, come to find out that the lady in question who shared a wall with us, who was mad at us, was the staff captain's side chick.
Right.
Basically. We're like, oh, it all makes sense now. It makes sense.
Well, to go to that extreme, I mean, couldn't she just use her power to get you relocated somewhere else? Why have to go to the point of having someone come in and drugs test you to get you actually kicked off the ship?
You would think. I think it was just retaliatory because, we weren't doing anything wrong. But I think the staff captain was realized that he could maybe make her feel a little better by antagonizing us. I don't know. So essentially what happened is Sergio has had an interesting life. He actually was married before me when he was very young to someone he met on ships, and he lived in a few different countries.
He's got a type then.
Yeah. So he actually speaks fluent Italian. Okay. So the crew purser speaks fluent Italian. And so he walked into the office one day and just was like, look, to both of them, the gal in question and her counterpart was like, we know what you're doing. We know what's going on with the staff captain. Please stop. But, in Italian, so because they were Italian. So not everybody could understand who was waiting to straighten out their paychecks or whatever. And it stopped. So
good on you, Serge. Picking the Italiano.
But yeah, I mean, ships are like that, right? There's always some kind of drama. So for instance, I don't smoke, but a lot of people I've worked with do, weed, not cigarettes. But I've known so many people who've had to be careful between contracts because they're like, I don't want to, and it it seems like such a silly thing. Like I'm saying, when you have your physical before you board, that you could have smoked weed 2 weeks ago, and somehow this has some bearing on whether or not you're going to be able to do your job in the band or as a housekeeper or whatever.
Yeah.
It's odd. And the alcohol thing always gets to me too, because you're technically like never supposed to be drunk on the ship, right? Like they could technically test you at any time.
Yeah.
And disembark you. But then they just give you practically free alcohol at any turn as a crew, right?
If the crew weren't plastered on a regular basis, then they wouldn't be able to do the jobs that they're doing 7 days a week.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
It's like, let's everyone just have a nice time, and then they won't complain about us as much for the low pay and the ungodly hours.
Exactly. I mean, I get it. Don't show up to your job at 9 a.m. the next day still hammered. But for the... Okay, so I have a quick story. I was on my Japanese ship, and I was drinking with some people. I had one too many whiskeys. I don't drink whiskey. Long story short, I slammed my thumb into one of those big metal doors.
Oh, the fire doors.
Yeah.
The ones that are released by the bridge from magnets.
Yeah, those. So not a watertight door. I would not have a thumb.
No.
But the other ones.
Still, the fire doors are bloody big.
Oh, yes. So my thumb turned, and this was like, I don't know, 2 a.m, partying with the cast. My thumb turned like cyan. It was like the bluest blue you've ever seen. I did not know a body part could turn like glacier blue. Okay. Bad. And swelled up. But I knew everybody's like, you need to go to medical. That's really bad. And I was like, I can't do anything about this until I sober up. And so the whole night I just was like holding it on ice, and I was waiting till 7, 8. I'm like, okay, medical's probably open, but I don't know if I would test it, because I knew that I could get fired because I had done it while I was drinking.
Oh my God.
And so I had to wait hours. And I just remember it being like agony, like groaning in my room. And I finally went, and it was bad. Like they had to drain it. They had to give me antibiotics. I nicked it on the x-ray. Like I didn't quite break it, but I nicked the bone. It was really bad. But yeah, and so I just had to, I remember being queasy when they were telling me what they were going to do to my thumb. So it was really gross. Yeah. And the doctor's like, are you okay? I was like, I'm fine. I had been in so much pain, and I was very hungover, but I couldn't show anything of that because I would be fired. It doesn't really make sense to fire me for being drunk late at night when I'm not going to be on duty till the following night doing a show.
And it's not like you were doing damage to anyone else whilst under the influence. I mean, you hurt your thumb.
Yeah, I hurt my thumb
after a couple of beers, but you were still scared to go and have it seen.
Yeah, that's the thing, is I was sobered up enough to be in a lot of pain, but I knew that I wasn't fully sober, and I was just afraid of losing my job. So that's the kind of like sticky situation that I feel like you're in on ships. Anything that could be your fault, you have to be really, really careful about. Absolutely. Like I hurt my back when I was on the ship, not because of any one thing I necessarily did, but I herniated a disc, and I didn't know. I was very young. I didn't know what it was. You go to ship medical, they don't have a lot of resources. And so they x-rayed it. They told me to stretch, whatever. They started giving me muscle relaxers. Like this was a thing that went on for weeks and weeks. And eventually, long story short, I had like a pretty bad back injury by the end of this contract. And I was dancing through it, and I was whatever. And I found that we hit Florida once. Like we did like one floor round where we were just in the Caribbean before I disembarked. So they finally got me an MRI. Found out I had a disc herniation. So the day that I disembark, they tell me, oh, you herniated your disc. Suddenly I'm getting contacted, this is the end of my contract, about the ship covering my medical costs, because there's a thing called the Jones Act. The Jones Act. It's a maritime law. I don't know if it applies to people. I know it applies to people in the U.S. I don't know about,
Right.
And essentially the ship, very, very, very long story, somewhat shorter. A lawyer reached out to me, and I got some money from the fact that the ship failed to repatriate me and check out my injury while I was on board, because the Jones Act says they're responsible for doing that, even if the injury didn't come as like a direct result of my job, right? So I didn't like fall while dancing or something, but they're responsible to get you checked out. And checked out, I think, in your home country. And, and because of that, the injury got worse. And it was determined that I had to do physical therapy. I had to do some stuff before the next time I could take a contract. So essentially, I got money to cover the medical costs. Not a lot when you think about all the stuff that I had ended up having to go through.
And the time you missed from not being able to go back to work.
But I was going to say so I was made aware by the lawyer I was working with. Basically, I disembarked, and the next several months I needed to go through physical therapy and injections and all these things for my spine. And I was starting to feel better, and I finally got an offer from another line to work again. And I'm like, okay, I feel like I could do it. And this was at the same time that the ship that I had been on was getting ready to give me a settlement. And basically the lawyer told me they have people that can watch you. I don't know how, watch what you're doing. And, if you're doing better than you say you're doing, or if they get word that you are poised to maybe take a contract, they're going to retract this money.
Right.
So basically we had to kind of settle up earlier than we wanted to so that I could work again. Because if I had said yes to another ship, they would have tried to fight it. They would have tried to fight giving me any money. Basically, what I learned is that these companies are huge and powerful and have more intel than you could possibly know.
It only takes one person to milk the system for them to be like, oh, now everyone's going to start doing it. So they have those procedures in place.
Yeah, and I didn't get like a payout that made any difference after all the stuff that I had to get done out of pocket. And when I was off a ship, because I was a contract worker, we don't have NHS here. You know what I mean? I didn't have anything I had to pay for. MRI was all out of pocket. So that really just kind of got me back in the black again, but it was I feel like I had a representative from the ship company that used to call me to like check in and just, she had some role of like being a facilitator. I feel like she was trying to gaslight me that my pain could be caused. She would talk to me about your pain could be caused by anxiety. Have you checked this out? They were trying.
Just looking for any excuse to get out of it.
Yeah, they had people on me to try to find a way to not give me money or pay me less.
And did you say how you had the injury? I don't know.
They think it was, the doctors that I went to thought it was just cumulative. Like I was very small. You had to stay very small at that time, because the weigh-ins and stuff. And, lugging huge things of costumes up, moving stairs. And it was just like sort of a cumulative injury. I tweaked my back, but it wasn't like any acute thing. Like it wasn't an incident. And I was honest about that the whole time. But it was just the fact that they left me out to dry. Like there was a point on the ship where I was in so much pain, and they were giving me muscle relaxers and painkillers, like a shit ton of drugs, just so I could continue doing my job. And I would come back to medical and just be like crying, like I'm in so much pain. And they said, well, we could medically disembark you. But if they do that, my thought was, well, where am I? I don't have insurance. No. So now I have all these injuries. This is before I knew I could get anything covered by them. So I'm like, you can't medically disembark me. I will be in such financial dire straits, So I had no choice but to just keep taking the muscle relaxers and trying to do my job.
That's tragic. And but it's an interesting insight, one to share that people should be aware of.
Yeah, I feel like, and honestly, like I'm well aware that I speak from a place of privilege, and the fact that I am from the US and the fact that, I'm a white person and in the cast, like there's racism and there's hierarchy on the ships, and you know what I mean? All of that exists. All of these systems exist. And I know that there were things that happened to workers from other countries and other roles on the ship that had a much more miserable time than I did. I mean, we all hear the stories of people breaking things and losing appendages and basically just getting tossed aside. So I do know that it was much easier for me than a lot of people have it. And that's,
of course,
I want I want to put a fine point on that, you know.
But don't try to underplay your own incident, because that is, you know, there's still a lot to put yourself through physically. What is it you're doing now, by the way? You said you stopped it in 2019.
Yeah. I work in marketing, but I also still sing in like music theater and with my husband in a duo. But yeah, so that's what I sing and do marketing. And yeah, I actually put together a guest entertainer show and was gonna do it. I got picked up by an agency. They were giving me dates, and long story short, I essentially just realized I didn't want to be back at sea all the time again. I'm kind of done with that chapter, you know.
As you said, you're in the marketing space now. Well, that is, you know, this is your section to market yourself. So if you've got an Instagram handle or anything like that you've got some show reels and stuff for people to take bookings, just chuck it in there. You might get some creepy guys stalking you. You never know.
I wish my Instagram was like more up to date with my performance stuff, but I can't necessarily guarantee that right now. But hey, I'm very Googleable. You can use my first and last name. So there you go. Right.
You did say that. Very Googleable. Great marketing. Was it great USP?
It's true. It's true.
Jini, thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, thanks for having me. This was fun. Thanks, Sam.
Thanks very much. Take care. Best of luck to you.
You too. Happy birthday. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye. So there you have it. That wraps it up for this episode of DeckTales. I hope you enjoyed it. If you've been entertained by the tales of laughter, camaraderie, and the occasional stormy sea, then don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your feedback helps us to navigate the podcasting waters and continue bringing you these fascinating stories. Before I sign off, if you'd like to share your own stories for future episodes, then I'd love to hear from you. Simply get in touch over the socials, because after all, the best stories often come from our listeners. As we navigate through the waters of life, remember to enjoy the journey as much as the destination, as well as those you choose to share the adventure with. I've been your captain, Sammy Catlin. Until next time, fair winds, smooth sailing, and may your adventures be as unforgettable as those shared here on DeckTales. Bon voyage.